Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life.
All right, so here we're back, and I'm going to cover my number one secret to success. Now, I attribute a lot of different things to my success, but there's one thing that stands out in my mind. Then it's just a bulldog, hard-headed, stubborn sense of perseverance. In other words, that when I tackle something, when I make the decision to go for something on a fundamental level, I will not give up until that is accomplished, no matter what. I've been like that since I'm little. I've been like that if I wanted a certain camera. I didn't have the money. I went and I worked and I did odd jobs and things like that, and I finally could buy myself a beautiful Nikon something camera with a lens, and I like photography and things like that. And if I decided that I would go on vacation with my buddy to Spain, we made things work. You find a way to make things work. So here's the thing. In order for you to have that perseverance, a few things need to fall in place. Number one, you need to have, and I got to make some notes so I don't forget it. Number one, you need to have a reason why. Number two, you need to have the what. And number three, you need to have a date in place. And then another thing is that you need to do is you need to know yourself. Know thyself, right? Know thyself. So what I mean by that, let's start with know thyself. Here's the thing. Everyone can get excited about something at any moment in time. If I'm at the football stadium, with the Arizona Cardinals hopefully playing well sometimes, rarely lately, but again, it's a different story. And I can get excited. I can get into the spirit of it. And I can say like, oh my God, great. And I would love to work on a football field. And I would love to be excited and so on and so on. And I would love to do this. But am I the right person to work on a football team? I know nothing about football or very little. I'm learning, guys. I'm learning, like little by little, I'm learning. I can't run anymore. I don't know the terminology of these things. I have no pedigree in that sport. Nobody would hire me. Me trying to get into a football organization like the Cardinals is a shot like I'd rather get hit by lightning. So I can take my chances. I can say, I'm going to do this, and I don't know what I need to do for the next 15 years to get my door in, my foot in the door, perhaps as their locker room cleaning guy or something like that, right? That's not a goal, in my opinion, worth accomplishing for myself. So I got to know myself. What am I good at? What is my natural tendencies to do? What is my natural expertise? And what kind of style of business am I going to enjoy? So here's, for example, many people think I'm an extrovert. Well, I am, but I'm not. I enjoy going into parties and into events with a whole bunch of people and so on. But then again, sometimes I don't know what to talk to people about, right? So I much rather prefer, even though I have a lot to talk about, but I much rather prefer running my business right here on this computer desk, in this office, without talking to anyone. If I can have an entire day without talking to anyone and just sending emails and thinking about stuff and creating things and just texting. I mean, I'm talking, but I'm talking, then this is a perfect day for me. So is a business where I have to go contact people, be on the phone, and make appointments, sit with people in people's living room and convince them to sell their house to me at a $50,000 discount or $100,000 discount, is that the right business for me? No, it's not. I would fail in that kind of a business. So I know myself. That's why we're ultimately not doing house flipping, because I don't want to do that. Now, could I hire people to do that? Yes, but that requires a different thing. Then you got to go out of the gates right away with those people, which is overhead and expenses and things like that. And most people are not ready for that. So at the same time, that's also why we like apartment complexes, because on apartment complexes, there's a leasing manager in the office talking to the tenants. There's a maintenance people in the running around the property fixing stuff. There's a regional manager talking to them, and then only once a week I talk to the regional manager. So I have one conversation a week to manage a team of 5 people and a complex of 150 apartments. That's the kind of thing I like to do. So know yourself first, so that you know which kind of real estate technique is the right one for you, because there's some that are very, very much meeting involved and people involved and talking to people on construction site and so on. I got two friends here in town that are in the top 1% of realtors, but they also do a lot luxury fix and flips. So one of them is the guy that doesn't know. I don't know if he knows much, but he probably by now knows a lot. One of them is the guy that is more like talks to investors and talks to the buyers and talks to the seller, talks to buyers and sellers, and the other guy is the construction guy, right? So they have divided and conquered their team, but both are people that like to talk about stuff, just different kind of things. So know yourself. If you know you're not a detailed person at all, and then you don't want to throw yourself into a situation where you have to keep track of the number of nails in the box and the number of 2x4s here and what you ordered and what is still there and the coordination of all this kind of things. So that's part number one. Once you know yourself, introvert, extrovert, organized, not organized, research person, not research person. If you know that you are that you thrive with creative processes versus where you rather want something that's cookie cutter, right? Depending on that, you pick your real estate method. So we love land because even though it's cookie cutter, every land deal is a little bit different. Every land deal requires a little bit research, not too much talking to people, and not sitting in anyone's living room. Everything can be done by mail and so on and so forth. Good. So now that you know yourself, you pick, based on that, you look at the real estate methods. Now on the different investment methods, people get excited about day trading, right? But then they realize that they stresses the heck out of them because they have to pay attention for a long time, very detailed attention to stuff that's going on the screen. I could never do it, so I'm not even trying. But once you find what you're looking for, and now you look at that, that's when we look at that. So that's when we buy it. When we look at it, now we're not looking at it only from the point of view, is this what I'm looking at? I'm also looking at, can I devise it around, can I create it around my lifestyle? I like living at home. I like spending my day at home. I don't want to run around, meet sellers, meet buyers, meet contractors and stuff like that. So that's why land flipping works for us. And that's why house flipping, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go into construction. I want to jump in a car every morning and drive around. It's not my life. Perhaps it's yours, and that's okay. But know thyself. I'm going to talk about a contrarian, being a contrarian. Now, being a contrarian means that you go the other way. Contrarian has the word contra within it, and contra means going against the grain. So being a contrarian is not always easy, but it's an extremely profitable way of being if you can truly internalize the path of the contrarian. So let me give you some of the most famous contrarian that there are in the world. Probably the number one, most successful, most famous contrarian is the third richest man in the world, Mr. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is the eternal contrarian. I read almost all the books out there about Warren Buffett, and and they all basically say that he started out early on looking at undervalued properties. He looked at properties that everyone was shying away from, and in some cases he found, not properties actually, stocks, companies, right? In some cases he found companies that where all the investors were shying away from, but the cash in the bank was worth more, and the real estate in many cases was worth more than what the stock was trading at. So he knew that he was getting a bargain, right? So everyone else was shying away, and he was going towards this. I know he bought a subscription thing, something like the Yellow Pages, which whoever bought the Yellow Pages is also a contrarian. The Yellow Pages, if you're older than, let's say, 30, you probably remember these big yellow books delivered in front of your door, which pre-internet kind of search engines, in a sense, where you could find, like if you need a plumber, if you need something, you would just look there because you couldn't Google it. Google wasn't around, right? So therefore, or internet wasn't around with all these search engines. So as a result, you would go and look in the Yellow Pages. Now, the Yellow Pages subscription model, the Yellow Pages still exists to this day, but the fun part is that
people still pay several $100s, companies, several $100s, sometimes even thousands of dollars to be in the Yellow Pages. So the Yellow Pages is making this tremendous amount of revenue, but they have now barely any cost because they transitioned online too. They still probably ship out a few more catalogs, but they don't advertise for the Yellow Pages anymore. So even though it's a declining business, it cash flows like crazy. It's a typical contrarian move to go into something that other people just don't look at. So now let's look at the same time what is contrarian. So in 2007, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7 mainly, everyone ran after houses. Well, when everyone ran after houses, guess what we did? We ran after land, right? I ignored houses because it just didn't make sense. It sounded to me like something that was not sustainable. Like when people bought, here in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live, bought houses for $350,000 that rented for $1,200, but the mortgage was $2,000. And they got these kind of reverse amortization loans where your payment is like $900 for the first 2 years. And then it's higher. That was purely just a game to wait out a little bit and wait. It was a game where you waited out the market for the market to continues to go up. And then once the market goes continuously up, you go flip that property to the next fool down the road that then would do the exact same thing. Well, it sounded like a game of musical chairs where when the music stops, somebody was left holding the bag, and that's exactly what somebody was left without a chair, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I didn't even think about it at that point, but I looked at it, and contrarians are often number investors. So they look at the numbers, and if the numbers make sense, they invest. It doesn't matter what the market says. It doesn't matter what the people around you say. It doesn't matter what the masses do. So contrarians are by definition highly independent individuals or companies or so, but usually individuals that are independent. They're able to make independent decisions from peer pressure. Right? And in essence, kind of that's my story, and that's definitely also Michelle's story. I joined a couple of groups and stuff like that, but I never really felt at home in those groups. If I felt like going home, I went home. And if I felt like not joining a group, I didn't join a group. And if I felt like going a different way, I went a different way. And yes, there was this kind of need to be part of a group, and I always struggled with that. But definitely in the investment decisions, if the numbers don't make sense, just because everyone else runs that way doesn't mean you should be running that way. You should be running the way that the numbers make sense. So in 2005, 6, 7, when everyone was going after houses, we didn't go after houses. We actually went after land, right? We went after land, and we flipped land because when you buy something at 5 or 25 cents on the dollar, 5 to 25 cents on the dollar, you can make money on an up market. You make huge amounts of money, and in a down market, you still make money. Right? You still make money. So then happened, 2008 happened, and 2009 happened. And I went to the local Real Estate Investors Association, and I saw that the newspaper was full of blood stories of people losing it all, and that real estate was the worst investment in the world, and that you need to stay away from real estate and so on, and from houses, and that people were losing their houses. So I went to the Phoenix, Arizona, to the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association meeting. And in that meeting, they were telling me that now, because prices had gone down so much, you could buy properties at $25 to $60 a square foot. I mean, I kid you not. So I ended up buying a property. We ended up buying a lot of houses in that moment. We jumped in, the bottom line. Because everyone was screaming, stay away from some houses, stay away from houses, stay away from houses. So what did we do? We looked at houses. That's the contrarian way. Right? The contrarian way is when everyone screams, run, you go look exactly at what they're running from, because it always, the rule of thumb is that the level always overcorrects. Right? If there's a frenzy, it overcorrects towards too much like greed and trying to make deals work that don't really work. And on the contrary, once the bubble bursts, it overcorrects it to the other side. So now we we looked at that, everyone running away from houses, the masses are not buying houses. Well, great. That means houses must be on sale. So we looked at that and we bought houses, 1,500 square foot houses that were renting at $800 to $900. We bought them for $26,000 in the market where 2 years prior they were selling for $200,000. Now it's only a matter of time until these properties come back to those prices. And guess what? It took less than 10 years, and the properties, actually probably more like 7 years, and these properties are back to the $150,000 to $200,000 prices. And guess what? We still own them, right? We still own them. So again, the contrarianism worked, right? When everyone was running to houses, we were in land. Right? And we continue being in land because land works in all the markets. So it's probably one of the only asset classes that you can flip, that can flip in any market condition. Because when land sells, when you buy land for 5 to 25 cents on the dollar, you can always sell them with a profit. So then at the same time, houses, when people abandon houses in masses, that's the time to get in.
Michelle and I run this business together, right? We have been married for over 18 years, going on almost 19 years now. We have been working together in this business for 17 of those years, right? And we work from home. This is my home office. Michelle has her home office actually almost right above me here. And we have always worked from home. We have had an office. We have had an office for a while ago where we used to go together, where we had up to like 35 people work there in this office for us. And then we transitioned into a smaller office and became more virtual. And then we almost dismantled our office. And all we have left is like one little 100 square foot room where it's like storage and files, and the important files and stuff like that is there in a shared office space, one of these Regis office spaces that you see all over the US. And but mostly we work alone from home. Now, here's the thing. The key to making business as a couple work, in my opinion, is to have obviously like mutual respect and mutual appreciation for what each other do, for each other's smartness, for each other's skills and those things. But also it's to have clearly defined roles. Right, clearly defined roles. We actually, the times when we had, when we crash and when we collide and when we have fights and things like that over business is when we both want to take the lead in a project, taking it in, well, often different directions, right? So as a result, what we have done is we had actually had an interesting transition. So early on, Michelle was the operations manager because she has a superior skill in that area. She's an amazing operations manager. And I was more like the CEO. I was like looking at, we're going to go into this area now for land deals and into that area for land deals. And I would kind of lead the way into kind of like in what properties we buy, which areas we go. And Michelle would make sure that everything happens and everything is done. However, here's something that happens over time that actually burned Michelle out, because even though she's very, very good at it, she's not from her heart a operations manager. So now actually we swapped those two areas, and now she is the one with the vision, and she is the one being in lots of masterminds and lots of things like that, and really expanding her mind about the possibilities of what we can do. And I'm the one making sure things are actually happening. So obviously we have a team. It's not I'm making sure things are happening. I may perhaps making sure things are happening, but I'm obviously not making it all happen because we have a team around it. We have guys work with us for 13 years already. We have an amazing team of over 25 people all over the world that work with us in different capacities. Plus we have property management teams for our multifamily properties in the different locations and so on. So if you add all of those up together, we probably have over 50 people that work with us in the various capacities. Now, having said that, the key is still the same. If we both want to be operations managers, we both got to go fight over ways how to make things happen. If we both want to be the CEOs, we got to fight over ways on which direction to take the company. So now what we do is Michelle is really like the visionary. Michelle is the one that is thinking about the directions we should take, thinking about new ideas to bring our programs and bring our land pieces and expand in the apartment complex market and so on. And then I'm the one bringing together. Or if we can do a distinction where we take leads in different areas, then Michelle is the lead in the land and in the education area, and I'm perhaps a little bit more of the lead in the multifamily area, right? But in either case, I'm now the one that operates it. Now, what does it have to do with you? This is not about us. This is nothing. What it has to do with you is that if you're working with your spouse, then you wanna kind of look at that. If you're both doing the exact same activities, then there's chances of the conflict is much larger. If one of you takes care of the sales and the other one takes care of the purchases, then that's a role definition. And that's how we early on defined it. There wasn't like a CEO and operations manager even early on. It was just two people doing the land deals, right? It was Michelle and I figuring out how to do this land business and then doing these land deals. So during that time, what we did is naturally, because I was traveling 100% and Michelle was here, she took care of the more paper-intensive things, like the research and working with the title companies, doing title searches and so on. And I took care of the more virtual things, which back then, when there wasn't all these technology methods that are out right now, was more like I was contacting the counties, I was getting lists, I was selling the properties and creating, like at midnight, I was creating listings. If you want to talk to the title company, you can't talk to them at midnight. You have to talk to them at 1 or 2 or 3 p.m. Well, at 1 or 2 or 3 p.m., I was in meetings while Michelle could step out of doing her master's, could step out, or when she quit her job and started doing this full time to get me free from my job, she was able to do that during those days. So it was a natural progression of where does the business need us? And it was a better fit for me to be in the marketing side and Michelle to be in that side. Now, as we built a team around that, that obviously then changed, right? As we started doing big auctions, that changes. And the same is for you. So perhaps if you are, there's often a tendency I see that the woman gets put into the role of the detail-oriented, organizing kind of person. And I want to challenge that a little bit here. Because at the end of the day, you really, this is a role because often women through society have been pushed into that role of housekeeper, of keeping everything organized and keeping the kids organized. So they have learned to be organized. But it's not a trait that naturally women have more than men, right? So I would challenge that in your relationship, if you're working as a spouse together, then truly ask yourself, what is the part that you guys enjoy most? And if one truly enjoys the detailed work more, and one is truly a little bit more the creative person and more like the writer kind of person, then it makes sense to divide it by that, irrespective of the gender that likes one or the other role, right? Don't let yourself to get pushed into still existing like gender roles, because they're a bunch of bullshit anyway. So instead, just do divide up and conquer the way you really see that happening.
Enjoyed this episode? Then make sure you like, subscribe, and post your comments and questions below the video. We're looking forward to hearing from you.